Hey, welcome back. It is a new week. We are jamming away at getting the front end of this thing reassembled. So a little bit of continuation on what we were working on last week. I picked away at this thing a little bit over the weekend, got a couple more things done, so I'll take you for a quick once over, show you what all we got knocked out, and then kind of what the game plan is here for the next couple days in terms of what we're going to try to check off the list. So I spent a little bit of time over the weekend and was able to get the engine transmission jammed back in it, so that worked out great. This thing nestled right into place. It's bolted up, none of the linkages or anything are tied in, but this thing is sitting in where it needs to go and it's locked in. Went ahead and bolted the starter back on. A couple other things are kind of tidied up. I keep forgetting to tie in my, finish tying up my brake lines, so I'll have to actually write that down so I can get that taken care of. But other than that, we got the both inner fenders on. This front radiator core support was cleaned up and painted and bolted on. So we are getting pretty close so we can start jamming fenders on. And in the meantime, decided we're going to try to save these fresh air tubes. So was able to get some generic choke cable that I formed new ends on. So I'll have to hook this up to the AC controls inside the car, but for now this thing is kind of snaked in there and good to go for the time being. But these things work nice and smooth. And for the little boots here, we're just going to utilize some just cheapo roll rubber to kind of make the little duct that joins this big air tube up here and this fixed one right here. So that should work out just fine. Doesn't have to be a perfect seal, just kind of fresh air coming through. So other than that, that's pretty well where we are at. So I think the game plan is here. We're going to try to get both fenders put on. I'm going to start over here, see if I can get this one knocked out first, and then we'll see what we can do to get all the rest of these fasteners or whatnot put in. It's kind of a monkey motion of just back and forth little adjustments to get these things kind of nestled in, because some things snap over others, some tuck underneath. So it's going to be kind of a little bit of a dance to get in here without scratching these guys up. So we'll probably go ahead and tape the door jambs and whatnot. Same thing with the backside of the fenders. Anything that's going to contact the paint. So we should be able to get those nestled in. And then still have this little front small grill here that we need to kind of clean up. A little bit of paint on this top support here. So if we can kind of get the front end of this thing put back together in the next couple days, that'd be great. Hadn't decided if I'm going to jam the hood back on or not. Trying to decide what's going to be easiest to go put the front windshield on. I think I might leave it off in the event that someone needs to kind of halfway stand in here or get in here to lean over. Probably would have been a halfway decent idea to go ahead and put the glass in prior to dropping engine transmission in, just in terms of access up here, but I think we'll be able to get it one way or the other. So that's kind of the game plan, is try to get some of this stuff knocked out so we can start focusing on glass and interior and whatnot. So it'll be a huge milestone if we can check some of this stuff off the list. So gonna start picking away here. We'll set you up and kind of watch me struggle a little bit on getting these fenders on, and then we'll see where we're at after that. Can't see nothing. Go ahead and kind of tuck this guy in here, slide it back some. Throw some tape around here where the hinge is going to kind of tuck up behind this thing. I don't want to scratch this if I can avoid it. Not the end of the world since it's kind of in the engine bay here, but try to keep this as nice as we can. Okay, that's loose. Good to go there. This should tuck back behind here. Alright. Kind of binding up on something. This thing needs to go back a little bit. I think I can attribute that to this corner down here, so I just want to be careful I don't get in my door jamb and booger that up. So this inner fender, the tab here that's kind of hitting on the fender itself, So that's close. The top needs to go back though. So I'm hanging up somewhere in this vicinity. So I'm gonna pop these hinges off quick. It'll hopefully allow me to not booger this up, scratch the paint, and whenever I'm hanging up on, I'm able to see it back behind this hinge. I've already pulled the 2 inside fasteners. We'll paint these guys while they're out. Okay, so we should be cleared, or this thing should just... I am close, but I'm half a hole off. Okay, it is not liking something up here in this area for whatever reason. There we go. Now we're looking good. Alright, so that was definitely the move to make, taking that hinge off. There's a tab on the back side of this fender, if you're gonna be able to see it, right here, was binding me up, was on the inside of this little box with this cutout. So between that and this little corner tab was kind of binding me up, not letting this thing go to the rear of the car enough, but got that figured out. So looking pretty good here. I think what we're going to do is hang tight on bolting this thing up. I'm a little bit tight in this little corner right here. It's hence the tape. So since I did not mark anything in terms of location for getting these body lines, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to focus on getting the doors lined up first, because they're going to be a little bit more crucial on my door jambs. I know this door here needs some serious adjustment, and it's definitely going to need to come to the rear of the car a little bit. So for now, I think we're just going to get this other fender jammed on. Then we'll kind of start worrying about our body lines, shim stuff. I know I had a couple body shims under here, same as the other side. I did not mark where any of these things came out of in terms of how many per side or location, so a little bit of a mistake on my part, but we'll get everything kind of back to where it needs to go. We'll shim it accordingly. But if we can get that other fender thrown on quick, kind of let us start focusing on getting this thing kind of shimmed back out and body lines back where they need to be, but we'll just get these things thrown off for the time being and go from there. Okay, so slight change of plans. We're going to forego putting this passenger fender on for the time being. I'm going to let this driver's side kind of serve as a trial run here. So I've adjusted my door a couple times. I'm pretty close to where I need to be. Got these body lines a little bit closer. This was sitting a little bit low in terms of door body line to pillar body line here when I got the car, and I'm really close to where I was when I got it. So I think we're going to call it good for that. I'm not sure exactly how crisp those were from the factory anyway. Not too happy with this here, but my bottom corner of the door here is a little bit proud to the rocker, so I should be able to swing that bottom hinge in some, and that should help bring this top out, and that would get that line a little bit better. But I think in terms of forward and aft with the door and then elevation, we're pretty stinking close. Now what we're dealing with here is we're super tight in this corner. So I think we can shim this. We'll start with a couple little shims, 2 or 3 of them, and see where that puts us. My goal is to get us somewhere kind of in this vicinity. That makes this gap pretty crisp. I think I need to go back with it just a little bit. We'll see how the door opens into it. And this line here is nice and smooth. So this hole's pretty large. We got a lot of adjustment there. So this is where we're going to start. Don't believe there's any adjustment in terms of the front here. I think this all just kind of bolts up as it is, and then the hood adjusts to all this. So we'll probably throw a couple fasteners in the front here once we get the shims in. Kind of work with the back here, because I think these are going to be the lines that are going to be a little bit more crucial to finagle, and then we can kind of jump to the front and then kind of get this thing twisted around as we need to. If you see over here, there's a little bit of flex in terms of kind of how this inner fender and the core assembly and this little deflector thing here wants to kind of fest in here. So like I said, we'll start in the back, work our way to the front, and go from there. So I'll set you up and we'll kind of play with this for a minute. All right, so we're going to shim this corner quick. I think we're going to start out with 3 and see what that looks like. Get these guys painted up. Okay, so that's pretty close elevation wise. I think I just need to come in a little ways. Start with that. That's not too bad there. Okay, so I think I like that. Okay, so I think I like that there. I think we're going to live with that for a minute. And then we'll hop down here to this bottom corner and see what that looks like against the rocker here. Alright, so I got this bottom bolt in. Did not record it. It was kind of a booger. Had to actually retap the hole that's in the fender itself. So struggled with that for a little bit. But I'll show you what that kind of looks like. So it's tucked way back into here. Got 2 shims on that. I don't know if you can see there through here. So got that shimmed. We'll have to put 1 fastener in here to tie this inner fender in, but that's pretty well taken care of. So I think now that I like that, we're pretty good in terms of elevation with the fender to rocker. Door I'm going to work on here in a second, see if I can get this door kind of trued back up to the rocker body line. And if I can get that close, then that should get me where I need to be with this. So I'm just using a paint stick for kind of a body gap. So if I kind of continue this on up, I'm a little bit big on the door side of it, so we'll work on that here in a second. Unfortunately, gonna have to do a little touch-up paint right here. Just get in here, tapping this. That fender kind of bounced around here, cut through my tape, so we'll have to be a little more careful on the other side, and I'll actually clean up the threads on that hole before we slam that fender on. That way hopefully we can just kind of slip this in, throw a couple shims in it, and it'll slip right into place. But that's pretty well where we need to be for the as far as the rear of the fender mounting. Now there's a couple little fasteners that go in through here. There's a bracket that comes down from the inner fender here that ties into these guys right here. We'll have to paint that up, get that all tidied up and put back on. And then I've got these little goofy dishes here that we struggled a lot to get pulled out of the car. Got to figure out what we're gonna do with these. They're kind of boogered up in the corner, so I'll have to patch that in. Kind of putting that off, but at least we can say we have a fender mounted, I guess. So we'll kind of continue on with that. I want to get this thing pretty well in its place. Got all these fasteners here that need to go in. But other than that, looking pretty okay, I think. I ended up actually stacking 1 more shim up here once I put the one in down low. Didn't really like it, so I picked this one up 1 more shim level, and that got me really close to where I need. This gap is really nice here, and I think if I can get this door pulled forward just a little bit, that'll tighten that up, and this will be nice and crisp. So that's my game plan. We'll see if we can do to get that accomplished here in a second. Okay, so a little bit of trial and error here. Got this door gap lined up pretty well where I think it needs to be. Closes nice and smooth. This line here to the door to the rocker is nice and crisp. So I think we're looking pretty good. So this is probably where this thing is going to stay, short of any issues with the door latch, any of this weather stripping and bump stop stuff. If we got to do a little bit of adjustment, we can, but I think it should be probably pretty close to where it needs to be. Other than that, this fender's just about wrapped up. I think I'm going to go ahead and throw in some of these air duct fasteners. I'm not going to worry about the headlight buckets or anything yet. Still need to clean all that stuff up. A couple more of these fasteners need to go in. So that's pretty well getting us where we need to be on this fender. I went ahead and painted this oil breather black. Looks way better. Notice that in the comment section on the last video. And I think everybody was right. This does look a whole lot better, so good with that. As far as this side's concerned, I think we're just about ready to drop this fender on. Nothing we need to prep over here. I think this door is going to be a lot closer than the other one where we started out, so hopefully this one won't need any adjustment, or if any at all, it'll be very minor, because we're already starting out pretty close with the door to rocker line here. So hopefully that should get us close to where we need to be, and then we can play around with our shims here as well as down here in this corner. So when we going to go ahead and throw the rest of the fasteners in on this driver's side here, and then we can hop across, start working on the passenger side. Casey, you watch me struggle with this fender here quite a bit, so I may have to take out one shim. I'm pretty okay through here, but if I drop this down one level, that kind of opens this gap up and would allow me to push the fender back a little ways. And I think I'm going to struggle with my door gap here because I'm already pretty tight over here, and everything, all the adjustments that I need to make to the door are not going to be conducive to this gap here. So I'm going to play with it for a little bit and see how good we can get it, because I've just got this one fastener in, so a little bit of back and forth stuff, and then haven't even messed with this gap down here in terms of this thing needs to go in towards the car quite a bit. And if you recall, we had to rebuild this section of fender due to some rot in this area here, so we'll see how close we got it in terms of the structure behind this thing. May have to pop this thing off entirely and kind of see what we need to do to get this pushed in a little bit, but we can kind of get creative with it and go from there. It's just kind of a back and forth trial run thing here, so we'll pick away at this for a little while, try to get this knocked out, and then we can move on to some other stuff. All right, so off and on 14,000 times. I think I'm halfway close to where we're at. Not too crazy about this gap right in through here. It looks really good about halfway down, but this is a little bit kind of wonky here. So I'm going to, I don't know, I'm probably going to call it good for today, but may come back and mess with this a little bit later. I think if I loosen this fastener here, I can kind of open this gap up, and by doing that, that would close up this and just kind of shift this thing just a little bit. My door is pretty well where it needs to be due to this gap up here. I can't do a whole lot with it before I start making contact here. So like I said, for now we're going to call it good. So I've kind of moved on to some of this front end stuff. Got one of these dishes put into place. I'm halfway scratching my head on reassembly for this little front grille section. I think this thing needs to go on next. This is just kind of a brushed aluminum. It's all boogered up with, you know, mold, mildew, and junk. So we're going to go over it quick. Just some degreaser, scrub it down, get it halfway shined back up, and we'll throw it back on. The rest of the brackets and whatnot are painted up and ready to go. So if I can get that thing cleaned up, we'll be looking good there. I'm going to leave this middle grill bar off for the time being until we figure out what we're going to do chrome wise. This thing would actually polish up pretty decent, but I'm going to leave it off for the time being so we can focus on the rest of this thing. So that's game plan quick. We'll jump to that and then see what that looks like here in a little bit. Okay, so I got that center grill section cleaned up yesterday. Went ahead and threw it on the car last night, so I'll quick show you what that looked like. Turned out pretty decent. Couple spots could be touched up a little bit better, but all in all, I'm pretty content with it. So this thing shined up pretty okay. A little bit of oxidation here and there, especially through here. But this thing's kind of a brushed aluminum, or, you know, hazy aluminum, so I don't know how shiny it's actually supposed to be. We can come back and spend a little bit more time on this, depending on how well our chrome comes out. I don't want this thing to be a you know, a mirror finish if our chrome is kind of just a mediocre. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But this thing is actually finally starting to look like a car again. So pretty ecstatic with the progress we made. I think we're gonna hang tight, like I mentioned, on the hood. Gonna wait probably to throw this front glass in. That way, if we need to get in here and stand on the frame rails or kind of straddle this motor to get that glass in, we can do that. And then not that big of a deal, we'll throw the hood on at a later date. So I think that's probably gonna wrap us up today. Got a lot of stuff we got to do yet. Obviously, this car is nowhere near finished, but we're one step closer to where we need to be. So do a little bit of house cleaning under the hood here. Probably going to work on carburetor and a couple of linkages and whatnot, try to get that stuff sorted out, and then we can kind of go from there. Really wanting to start working on this interior, so we're a step closer to that. We just want to get a couple things done before we get to that point and kind of jump into that. So I think that's going to wrap us up for today. Stay tuned for future updates. Thanks for watching.